good evening, everyone. I should point out a couple of things before I begin. The first is that I'm actually not from the content production or commissioning side of Sky. Cecilia Taylor, the head of Factual Entertainment, who is the content expert, was supposed to be here tonight, and unfortunately she can't make it. I found out on Friday that I was going to give the talk, so my preparation time was somewhat limited, but I hope I can be an adequate stand-in. On Friday afternoon, when I found out about this, I was sitting at the dentist, and I was looking. I was in the waiting room and looking at the sports page of the Telegraph, and something caught my attention that got me thinking about how content will evolve in our sort of increasingly connected society. And I ended up writing a lot of this presentation on my iPhone that day, and I think that hopefully the significance of this will be apparent as we move through this presentation. So this is what I was looking at. We can rule the world. There's a headlines about Man City, of course, so thank you to Martin for leading up to this for me. And it was it's a fairly prescient piece given what happened on Sunday afternoon, and more of that in a moment. But what struck me was the number of interconnected messages about content and consumption in society, which are all played out on this single page. We can rule the world. It is about content, but it's not about content in its classic production sense. It represents a television event which for a large number of people really resonates. It's a shared interest. It's the culmination of the Premiership season, and Sky is essentially built around this premise. The idea of providing experiences that people instinctively want to share with each other. But the Telegraph headline in question refers to the game. It's the end of the Premier League season. It's the most exciting finish in its history. The Premier League is about great content. I mean, it's been a cornerstone of Sky's success for the last 10 years. But most importantly, it's about live content. It's high octane, passionate moments. Only 60,000 people can be there, but millions more can follow at home. And that's what being a fan's all about. It's staying involved. It's staying close to the content and close to that conversation. So, in the early days of Sky, this focus on event experiences was mainly about sport and specifically about football. But if we expanded our range of content, invested in Hollywood productions such as Mad Men and Boardwalk Empire, movies, and released obviously recently with the UK's only dedicated arts channel, the theme has remained the same. It's content that people want to share. It's content people want to talk about. And because the audience cares about content is why we as a company invest $2 billion a year in content. And that number is growing year on year at the moment. So back to our photo. We can rule the world. The image is ostensibly, it's about Man City. It's about a football club, but the headline image is about the fans. So why is that? It's because they can also rule the world. Many of the people in this photo have probably been fans of the club longer than some of the players have been alive. So passion defines who they are. It occupies much of their free time and certainly much of their conversation. The passion is clearly evident in the photo. This is the Poznan, if you don't know it already. It's one of my favourite football celebrations. It's so obviously social, so together. The fans are so passionate about the game and being a fan that they're celebrating with other fans around them rather than turning around to celebrate the people on the pitch, the football players that they come to support. But if we look again at this picture, we see something else. Something which defines my vision for the future of TV and why content will always be really fundamental to this process. If we look more closely, not everyone is doing the Poznan. These guys are involved, but they're also capturing the moment. A photo, a short video clip, to keep for posterity or more likely to share with friends and family on a multitude of digital platforms as soon as they get access to them. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr. I could go on. When people have the opportunity, this content is going to be shared and distributed between thousands, millions of people potentially. And capturing such moments used to be a memento, an aid memoir, to help relive the excitement of the game when you got home. But in today's world of smartphone, with mobile video, photography, and this growing and constant stream of conversation on social networks, this idea of a memento has changed forever, in my opinion. For many people watching Sunday's game, the content, the fabulous live TV event in full HD or 3D, was just a part of that experience of engaging with what was a fantastic game of football. Fans would have been following the ebb and flow of the conversation at home in real time on Twitter and Zbox. Others would have received pictures and messages from their friends at the game. Many others would have discovered a multitude of associated moments shared on social networks and then propagated around the world in seconds. And if you read the tweet stream on Zbox on Sunday afternoon, you would have seen messages from Australia, from Malaysia, from the US, from Nigeria. The conversation transcends national boundaries, and it's happening in real time. This is, for me, is the key aspect of the future of connected content. Content is this thread that holds conversation together. The content story then grows and it shifts as the audience become involved. They provide their perspective and they edit and add to the content as it unfolds. The trend is here and it is accelerating. Simon mentioned the Oscars earlier, and I have a stat this year from the Super Bowl where Twitter peaked out at 12,000 tweets per second during the Super Bowl. It's just an enormous amount of conversation and activity around a single live sports event. So how do we enable our audience to participate in TV in this way, and in ways which were not really possible in the past? The examples I've discussed are redolent of this. The primary content experience, a Premier League match, the final of Got to Dance, the season finale of Game of Thrones. These are just examples of content, of which there are many, that generate enormous amounts of social activity. But this experience still feels fragmented and disjointed. It's not easy to bring these threads of conversation and content together, but it is something that we firmly believe in at Sky. Our investment in ZBox is testament to this. As are the companion sports experiences we're developing for F1 and Masters for our iPad customers. These second screen experiences have been developed to support the content experience on the first screen, and they bring elements of this conversation and interaction and participation to that audience. But this opportunity is not just limited to sports. We have already experienced with other live events, such as Got to Dance and Sky One, where the audience was actually able to access content on the second screen. This was a mix of previous videos from other shows, of bios of the cast, sort of simple additional elements to the content which is being broadcast. But we also experimented with a parallel viewing experience on the second screen, the first of its kind in the world, we believe, where a live backstage broadcast of Chris and Wes, the previous finalists from last year, was played out to a second screen audience who were consuming the show via ZBox whilst they're watching Got to Dance on the main screen. We played out this live backstage broadcast with Chris and Wes sitting with an iPad in their hand, talking and engaging with the audience directly on Twitter. In the downtime elements of the show, we were blending the first and second screen broadcast for the first time, but not taking anything away from the primacy of the first screen. And I think that example is interesting from an engagement standpoint, but Got to Dance was also interesting from a commercial standpoint too. As the acts came out and came onto stage, the tracks that accompanied them were then made available to download directly to second screen viewers via iTunes. And it was Shazam for TV. Quite a magical experience for many of the customers, but also a commercial opportunity for us. And for me, a great example of how you can create integrated commercial and engaging experiences which work for the viewers but also work for the business. This is the viable future of connected digital entertainment in the future. But these consumption experiences are not limited to consumption of individuals in the home. That also highlights another key theme I've touched on already, and one which represents another trend which I think is prevalent in the media industry of the 21st century, and that is content curation. Our F1 companion experience, which is built within the Sky Sports iPad app, and I would encourage any of you who are F1 fans to try and have a look at it if you can, is it allows viewers to choose a different camera angle for when they're watching the race. A different camera angle on the first screen from the second screen. This is about to be enhanced for multi-screen, split-screen video, which again I think is a world first on the iPad. But imagine if my friends could follow my lead on the iPad. They could tether my experience to what I'm doing and overlay content and conversation into that. And you have this perfect combination of broadcast production from Sky and a personal viewing experience which is linked to me and my friends. And this is where I think these opportunities start to emerge in the future, and this blend of personal and production values in content and merging the content and the conversation story into one. This curation trend is prevalent in other parts of media. I mean, Facebook obviously understand this with the concept of frictionless sharing. The idea that I can find out about their friends from their music listening preferences on Spotify has nothing to do with what necessarily may be in the charts at the time or on the radio, but it's micro-curation. I'm discovering content and experience by the actions of my friends in an environment which is best because we have a relationship with each other. Whether that's a friend or a follower is insignificant in this instance. But most importantly, we're here to talk about content and TV. So how do we enable this experience for television, and do we really want to? My vision is that we utilise content and new forms of content, shareable assets maybe, that will seed the conversation and drive these experiences. There is so much content that we create as producers and broadcasters already that never makes it to the broadcast TX. But there's a huge number of people in the viewing audience who would love to view it, share it, talk about it, be involved in it. I don't stop being a fan of Mad Men when the show ends any more than I'd stop being a Man City fan. nor a Southampton fan actually in my case, but content's important to us. We identify with it. The importance of identifying with content, just as Man City or Southampton fans identify with their team, is fundamental. It's one of the reasons that we're increasing Sky's UK content budget for £600 million just for UK content alone. We're launching new drama productions such as Chloe Sevigny in Hit and Miss this month, and I bring that up because we know that there are fans of the show out there already, and we know there's definitely fans of Chloe. So how do we get that content and that audience together? So I've spoken about the trends in curation and the blending of personal content with mainstream production, but as broadcasters and content producers, how do we make more of this? Mobile is a key element of this opportunity. $1 billion for Instagram, brings together a great example of personal and personalised content. It's not just about using content to drive engagement and loyalty, but it's about fun and happiness, and that's why it's worth so much money to Facebook right now. And we've got a similar opportunity with TV. Look at the trending topics on Twitter on any given day, and you're likely to find a mix of TV shows and celebrities in the top 10. We love to talk about TV. We love to talk about the talent on TV. Maybe Facebook is really for all the friends that I went to school with and don't want to be in touch with, and Twitter is for the friends I wish I'd always had. TV consumption is going to evolve across platforms, but this doesn't degrade the value of the content. We should embrace this trend and allow our audience to engage in the manner which makes sense to them as individuals. We can make TV better by making it more personal, including participation and conversation. But what about future productions? Maybe we can conceive of shareable assets as part of the production process. Normally in this case, the idea of social media and sharing of content comes at the end of the production process. Maybe we should turn this on its head. How do we create assets, experiences which can be shared in this environment from the outset? Make it available to people who want to engage and talk about it, and take the content beyond the lifetime of the TX and the broadcast of the show. We know there's a real appetite for enhanced TV experiences. People to share content. As a content company, or consumer-led content company, we need to make it easy as possible for people to do this. This is why we're consolidating most of our second screen activity around Sky Plus and bringing in the ZBox experience into that platform. I don't believe in a future where consumers have to fire up lots of different apps for lots of different shows and move between them, because it's a hard process for the consumers to engage with. We want to consolidate that experience in one place, make it simple, make it easy, and make it a repetitive behaviour. And hopefully we can bring people on from passive consumption of the TV into being engaged and being involved. This leads us to another personal dimension which is relevant to something that matters to me personally and to us at Sky, and that, to Martin's point earlier about people watching on their own, I still think that TV isn't just about I and me. I do think it's about we, and it's about us. Personal TV experiences need to resonate at the individual and the group level. How does this TV experience manifest to my friends and my family? This is the greatest challenge and opportunity for us as producers in the industry, I think. Is it personalised or personal? If we go back to the game on Sunday, let's think about the different types of view experience for the people watching at home. Some were fans of Man City, QPR, Bolton, Man United. They had a deep personal and emotional attachment to their content. The content was of paramount importance, as was the outcome of the game. But for others, for the sort of the impassionate supporters, the armchair supporters, their view was different. They were engaged in the game, they were engaged in the content, they were interested in the conversation. But maybe for them, the personal experience was going to be something different. It was going to be a bet on the outcome, a fantasy football score, maybe getting access to the deep images of conversation and images coming from the terraces. And when we think about that blend of sort of personal and production content together, I think we need to look at these segments and work out what works for different sets of people. So one thing that I want to leave you with, which came to me from a very good friend who was actually at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday. And he sent me something which, for me, really brought home this idea of combining production value content with personal content and giving you something which the TV experience alone is unable to do, was this. The message simply read, "I've never seen so many 50-year-old men crying." I think it says it all, so thank you.